Welcome to PHARMATVE Live. I'm Dr. James Partyka. I'm your host. I'm a oncology clinical research scientist, clinical pharmacist. For some reason, I've been misspeaking pharmacist. I've been a pharmacist for a very long time. Very important job. Definitely the experts in medication therapy. And I'm also the founder of PHARMATVE.com, PHARMATVE Live, which is part of the PNN Multimedia Group. And I welcome you. PHARMATVE Live occurs on a regular basis on Sunday mornings at this time. And it's also available for replay on our PHARMATVE YouTube page, as well as on PHARMATVE.com, and sometimes on Facebook as well. And it's our time to basically exchange information, practical information, to empower you to make informed decisions with your healthcare team in order to improve your healthcare, your fitness, and your family members. And that's PHARMATVE. It's all about connecting patients with healthcare professionals and scientists. So check out PHARMATVE.com, which is our social media platform. We're also available on all of the social media, including YouTube, and included on also our PNN.1 Plus Health mobile app, which is our sponsor for PHARMATVE Live. Not only can you get great live streaming dance and workout music through our PNN.1 Plus Health mobile app, but you can also get a number of vital healthcare research tools. You're also able to access PHARMATVE and PHARMATVE YouTube and a number of other surprises along the way in our PNN.1 Health mobile app. So check that out. That's our gift to you. There are limited commercial interruptions, and you can download that app today at your local Apple and Android stores online. So today is February 14th, 2021, and our topic for today is coping with the COVID-19 pandemic. There's a lot going on with regard to the pandemic, and I think you're going to find today's PHARMATVE Live particularly useful, and I guarantee you will learn at least one or two great pieces of information or tips in order for you to be able to cope with COVID-19 as best as you can. Approximately 1 year ago today, we had the first case emerging in the United States of COVID-19. And I can recall doing a PHARMATVE Live. I was actually in Sacramento on business. And I did a PHARMATVE Live from Sacramento reporting on the first death of a COVID-19 case reported in the United States. And now we're here, February 14th, 2021, and there's a lot of information available on COVID-19. A lot of people are overwhelmed, and sometimes it's difficult to keep up because it's changing on a daily basis. And what may have been true 6 months ago may not be true today. And that's why it's important to stay on top of the information. But again, PHARMATVE is about providing to you easy to understand, practical information that will improve your healthcare. That's what we try to do here. So unfortunately, I'm going to start off with some startling statistics. On this date, February 14, 2021, we have over 27 million COVID-19 cases. Just want to acknowledge a few people that are out there. Marlene and Anne and Jimmy, welcome to PHARMATVE Live. You can always text your questions live to, right now, or you can always send your questions ahead of time or after the fact to info@pharmative.com. So in the United States, unfortunately, we've had over 27 million cases reported of COVID-19. We've had, unfortunately, over 473,000 deaths. So if you estimate the crude mortality rate, that number comes out to be approximately 1.75%, which is startling. And it's even higher, 2 to 3 times higher in Black and brown people and people with comorbidities and people who don't have access to health care in poorer neighborhoods as well. That mortality rate of 1.75%, again, that's an estimate because we don't really know the exact denominator and we don't know really the exact numerator, but it's a crude estimate of the mortality rate, 1.75%. And as we've discussed in the past on similar topics, we're not only talking about the short-term complications of COVID-19, but there are a number of long-term complications, including death. But long-term wise, it can affect your brain. There's a syndrome out there called brain fog or confusion. Long-term wise, it can affect heart, so heart toxicity, lung scarring, neurotoxicity, clotting disorders, and we're still learning about the long-term complications of COVID-19. So the best thing we can do is to prevent you from ever getting COVID-19 by practicing double mask wearing, social distancing, hand washing, and minimize exposure to large crowds, especially crowds inside. As we all have been told many times, but we still have to now double mask up. And if you have a K95 mask, you want to put that on first and then put on your cloth mask over that mask, which helps seals over the initial 95 mask. And double mask up has been shown to greatly reduce your susceptibility to getting COVID-19. The common question that I've received over the last week or 2 weeks, I've received this both in the email form as well as live and on the phone, is when can I get vaccinated? And the best answer for me is you need to stay in tune with the information provided by your local public health officials and your local news sources of what your risk category is and where and when the sites will make that vaccine available to you. So again, it takes initiative. If you're not very good using technology, get one of your children to do it, your grandchild to do it. But right now, the vaccine supply is becoming more and more widely available at local pharmacies and clinics and large vaccination sites throughout the country. So it's going to get easier to obtain a vaccination appointment. And you definitely want to bring your ID and your insurance card, if necessary, with you to that appointment and any other forms of identification that would make you qualify for obtaining a vaccine. Now, a nice tip to put out there for all of you is that when you make your first appointment, see if you can schedule your second appointment. Remember, it's either 3 or 4 weeks apart for the second shot, depending on whether you're receiving the Pfizer vaccine versus the Moderna vaccine. So see if you can schedule your second appointment either at the time of making your first appointment or at the vaccination site. Again, if you're unable to do that, again, just keep trying to make sure that you can get it around 3 or 4 weeks, depending on which vaccine you receive. The closer you get it to that shot, that's the way the clinical trials were done. So the closer you can get to that 3 or 4 week date, the better off you will be, although the CDC is recommending that if it's a couple weeks later than the scheduled date, that's okay too. But again, we want you to get fully immunized from COVID-19 because we know the benefit far outweighs the risks, and the vaccine should be available to you free of charge. All right, so that's the first topic. Now, I have more good news to share with you. As of today, over 50 million people have been vaccinated. That's great. They've at least received one shot. And one shot of the vaccine does start arming your immune system to fighting COVID-19. And the second shot gives you extremely high immunity against contracting moderate to severe forms of COVID-19. So we've made great deal of progress. If you recall, the vaccines have only been available, these two vaccines, for national emergency use since December, but we're ramping up very quickly. We're purchasing more vaccine, and a third vaccine just submitted from Johnson & Johnson, which is a different type of vaccine. We discussed that the last PHARMATVE Live episode, again, available for playback if you're interested to learn about that vaccine as well. That's been submitted for national emergency use, and we can look forward to the next few weeks of that vaccine being available, which will increase the supply of more vaccine in the United States and throughout the world. So, if you do the numbers on the 50 million people vaccinated, right, our goal is to get 75% of people vaccinated. That would be a nice number to have when people refer to as herd immunity. And herd immunity is simply just enough people have been vaccinated in the population to minimize the spread of disease. Okay, 75% of people immunized will prevent greatly the spread of disease to that other population that is either not vaccinated or doesn't respond to the vaccine. So if you do that number, calculate how many adults do we have in the United States? We have over 209,000. Now remember, the vaccine's only approved for adults. They're planning and conducting vaccination trials in children now. So we don't have any data in children. So the vaccine is only for adults. We have over 209,000 adults in the United States. That means we need over 157,000 adults vaccinated with 2 shots, and the estimate is we should achieve that by the end of summer. So we're making great progress in getting to that herd immunity goal of 75% or higher. Higher would be even better. So, all great. Now, over the decades, the research that we've done in immunology, molecular biology, vaccine development, pharmacology, pharmaceutics, which is really the study of the formulation of medications, AIDS research, cancer research, have allowed us to get to this point in time where we can rapidly develop a vaccine very quickly, and in this case, in less than a year's time, to a new virus we've never seen before, COVID-19. That's great news. And the other great news is, although there are mutations from UK and South Africa that are emerging, we know they're more contagious, and we do believe they're more virulent. That is, they can cause more severe disease. That the companies, the drug companies, the biotech companies are already working on developing booster shots, if needed, for the mutation viruses. And they should be able to do that in less than a year. And with this new technology that the Moderna and Pfizer vaccine has, which is messenger RNA, which is encapsulated in a liposome, or what I call a fat bubble, and that technology has actually been around since the 1980s, and many drugs now are approved with liposomal formulations, including cancer drugs, and other drugs, antifungal drugs, and other drugs as well. That liposomal formulation allows us to basically get the injection of the drug to where it needs to be to activate the immune system so that your innate and adaptive immunity are activated. Adaptive immunity refers to T cells and B cells, and B cells create antibodies. And that's what we're looking for, both T cells and B cells to fight you against COVID-19. So at this point, I might want to remind you also, getting these 2 vaccines, there is no chance of you getting COVID-19. It's made with messenger RNA. It's not made with the virus. There is no chance of getting autism. A side effect profile is basically soreness at the injection site, possible allergic reaction, including rash, um, fever, and fatigue. And all of those are really related to the immune response that we're looking for, getting activated, which is an inflammation, inflammatory cells at the site of injection causing pain or soreness. Fever, eliciting immune response, cytokines that are exploding in response to the messenger RNA, and the production of the spike protein only, not a production of the virus. And that arms your own immune system to attack that spike protein if it ever decides it wants to invade you, and you're ready and armed to kill it before it has a chance to spread in your own body. So science is great. Science is what has gotten us to 2021, and science is going to get us through the pandemic. So that's all really, really, really good news. I just want to reiterate also that both the Moderna and the Pfizer vaccines, think of them having similar efficacy, is similar technology, messenger RNA. They're both encapsulated in that liposome, which sometimes I refer to as a fat bubble, and that allows us to get the drug where it needs to be in order to elicit an immune response. In fact, I'm actually working on a fat bubble drug for cancer, for pancreatic cancer right now. So it's great technology, it's proven technology, and as more and more people get the vaccine, and as we're able to track and trace those people, we're able to establish a further long-term safety profile for these vaccines, extremely safe and efficacious. So get vaccinated as soon as you're able to. Okay. Just checking my notes because I don't want to miss anything. We talked about the efficacy rate, approximately 95% for both vaccines. We've talked about the side effect profile. Now, there was, at the very beginning, there was the emergence of the possibility of an anaphylactic reaction. So if you have a history of a severe allergic reaction to anything, you want to talk to your healthcare professionals about that before receiving the drug. The two ingredients that are most important that are in the vaccine are polyethylene glycol and polysorbate. Those are the two that seem to be causing these types of severe reactions. The good news is it's extremely rare, and we know that now because we follow the CDC has a program that follows the safety of vaccines, and all healthcare professionals, pharmacists, and doctors and nurses have to report any kinds of reactions known with the vaccine. We know that it's extremely, extremely rare. We're talking about 1 or 2 cases of a severe reaction per 1 million people receiving the vaccine. So that's something that you should not worry about at all, but certainly anyone that gets vaccinated should be monitored for 15 to 30 minutes to make sure they're not having a severe allergic reaction to the vaccine. Okay, now we're going to turn to the second part of today's topic, which is coping with the pandemic. I know that a lot of people are experiencing anxiety, especially when loved ones have the disease, the frustrations of getting the vaccine, the unknown risk of when will this pandemic be over, having cabin fever, working from home and juggling all of our personal lives, people who have lost jobs, people who do not have readily access to health care or vaccination sites, which again, I would urge everyone to reach out to help our neighbors, our family members, give car rides for those people who don't have a car to go to a vaccination site. Again, we're all in this together. The more people that get vaccinated, the better off we're all going to be. And the more people that get vaccinated, the quicker that we get to the other side of the pandemic. So that kind of anxiety is somewhat normal, but if you find that you're not able to easily cope, or you're suffering from signs of depression because you're out of work, you're unemployed, you're worried about your financial bills and all of these things. And if you find that you're not able to cope on a daily basis with your routine activities, then that's when you really need to not only reach out to your family and friends, but reach out for professional help, which is also available online. You can see a virtual therapist, whether that be a psychiatrist, a psychologist, or a psychotherapist, or a nurse clinician that can help you cope with your anxiety and depression. So that's the first thing I want to put out there, because mental illness is something that people don't want to talk about. There's just a stigma attached to it, but everybody suffers from both mental and physical ailments, especially as we get older. Okay, I'm at a certain age now where, I'm starting to feel a little bit of arthritis and a little slower getting out of the bed every morning. And it's, again, it's about being in the best health possible, being as fit as you can in a difficult situation like the COVID-19 pandemic. Now, if you're working from home, I recommend that you have a dedicated space, whether that be for your children, for school learning, or whether that be for yourself, and have scheduled hours for working. Everybody works differently. Some people like to work a lot early in the mornings. Some people like to start later in the mornings. But depending upon the type of work that you do, schedule your hours, schedule your breaks, your lunch. And if you have a dedicated room, at the end of the workday, close the door. Okay, depending on what your profession is, try not to answer your work phone if that's acceptable for the kind of work that you do. So having that routine and that schedule makes it a more productive day for your work, but then make time for yourself and your family for rest and relaxation as well. So that's the second point. Have a dedicated work or learning space for yourself and for your spouse and your children. Important to exercise. I know that it's difficult right now for those people that are in the north with inclement weather, snow and frigid temperatures and stuff like that. But very inexpensive, stationary bicycles and treadmills you can purchase. Getting outside, dressing up for the cold weather or for the warmer weather. Getting outside and doing a power walking 3 to 4 times a week. Jogging and running and getting some physical exercise is great for both your mental health and your physical health, including watching your diet, improving your diet with the things that we know, lean meats and fresh vegetables as much as possible. Stay away from the sugary foods, although it's Valentine's Day, so make exception today, which I got some chocolate toffee, so I'm making a big exception today. But that is a big problem as well. And I've gained a couple pounds during the pandemic. And now, I'm really doing my best to get as much exercise as possible and to watch what I'm eating and portion control. And now I'm trying this intermittent fasting where I stop eating at 6 p.m. and I don't start my breakfast until 10 a.m. I'll let you know how that works for me. I'm not so sure I can follow it religiously, but I'll do my best. And also, you can check out the PHARMATVE weight loss plan, which is based upon my own personal experience when I was a younger adult and how I lost over 90 pounds through a weight loss plan that I developed myself. And it's largely focused on behavioral modification and going slower for weight loss rather than faster. So check that out. That's available also on PHARMATVE YouTube as well as on PHARMATVE.com. Now I also want to bring up breathing exercises, which I'm trying to do more on a daily basis. A lot of smart watches will have apps which allow you to remind you to do breathing exercise, where for 1 minute you inhale slowly over 5. I'll count to 5 and then eventually a count of 10, and then you exhale even more slowly, and you do that for over a minute, and that does relax yourself. So check that out. Again, a lot of smartwatches and smartphones have that breathing app already installed on your phone. The last point I want to make with regards to, again, coping is meditation. A lot of people have misconceptions about meditation. There's lots of different ways to meditate, to start your mornings or in your afternoon to spend, 5 to 10 minutes meditating. There are meditation apps out there like Headspace, and there's another one called Calm. You may be familiar, although those are available with a free trial period. They do require a monthly subscription. But there's also meditation videos available on YouTube for free, or just turning on music on your headphones and then just resting, relaxing, and staring at a beautiful sunrise or a sunset. So many different ways to meditate or to pray and meditate. And so I would highly encourage you to do that. That's actually a great way to release stress and anxiety out of your day. And with that, make time for yourself. And I'm catching up on a lot of streaming movies and streaming series that I haven't had the time to be able to do it because we're not doing the public events that we used to do. We're not going to concerts and plays and charity events. So my partner and I are very much staying at home, working from home, staying safe, and following the CDC guidelines on how to practice, double masking and social distancing and hand washing. So you have a little bit more free time, join Netflix. I have no stock in Netflix or a couple other streaming services that are out there. And there's so much great entertainment available on your phone, on your tablet, on your television set. And I find, obviously, the streaming services much better in the quality and quantity of different kinds of shows that you would never see before. So check those out as well. Now, for the remaining part of the talk, I'm going to talk to you about something that I think is very important and very easy to do. That is going to be a very practical way to help you manage your own healthcare plan. Okay, now I'm going to encourage you to do this on your phone, but you can easily do this through a notebook, right? And you're going to develop your own healthcare journal, and it's easy to do, and it's something you should do, especially if you're moving from one city to another city, changing doctors, or if unfortunately you got admitted to the emergency room for an medical emergency and nobody was with you from your family and they didn't know anything about you. So having a healthcare journal is a great way for you to take charge of your healthcare information. It's also a great way for you to track your costs. So when you do receive medical bills, the dates and the times and the type of procedures are all there recorded in your healthcare journal that you can compare to your financial bills because they make billing mistakes. And having a healthcare journal also not only empowers you by keeping track of the tests and the procedures and the medications and the visits, but it also reduces, in my opinion, as a clinical pharmacist, the likelihood of medication errors, the duplication of procedures, the duplication of tests that are unnecessary. Because right in your healthcare journal, you have all those dates and times and stuff like that. Now, it sounds like this is going to be hard to do, but I'm going to tell you the easiest way to do it. I encourage you to do it on your phone because you have your phone everywhere you go, right? And you don't have to purchase any fancy apps. You can use the notepad function on your phone. And it's so easy to do, and I'm sure I'm going to show you a trick or two that you never even knew about. So this is an iPad, Apple tablet, is the note icon right here, yellow and white, and you just open that up and open up a new document, all right? Now, a lot of people are concerned with privacy and people getting hacked in. You know, one of the reasons that I like Apple tablets and phones is they are more secure than other devices. But again, the amount of information you can put in this is up to you. So I would advise you not to put your social security number down there, right? I would advise you to probably, you can call it My Healthcare Journal, or you could just call it, you know, MHJ, you know, in your notepad. So be careful what confidential information you want to place in your healthcare journal. Okay, so the very first thing you're going to do under whatever you call it, MHJ or My Healthcare Journal, which I called mine My Healthcare Journal, is you're obviously going to put your full name and your contact information, your home address, if you'd like, your phone number, your email address. Again, whatever you're comfortable in putting there for you, don't put your social security number, okay? Now, a really neat feature in the notepad function is, did you know you can actually take a photo, and there's a photo icon on the very top of the notepad, all right? And you can actually just snap a picture of, say, your medical insurance card, which I did right here, okay? And it'll embed it directly into your healthcare journal. You can actually take a picture of your driver's license, okay, with your photo on it, right? And it will embed it directly into your My Healthcare Journal on your notepad. Again, Android, I'm sure it's there. It's probably, you just have to find where exactly it is, but it's the camera icon, actually is in the main menu on top of the notepad. Easy, right? Easy to do, right? So all of a sudden now, with just a few types, I've got the name, I've got my contact information, I've got a picture of my driver's license, what I look like, and of course I have my health insurance, because God forbid you go into the emergency room and you don't have a credit card or you don't have your health insurance card. All right, so that problem's going to be solved because you're going to do it today. You're going to start doing it today, and it's a process. And it sounds overwhelming, but as you add to the information and you prioritize the information, you start with the most important information, you're going to start doing it today, and you're going to start doing it little by little, okay? Now, this is really important, not only for the average person, not only for people as they age. It's really important. Anybody can have a skiing accident or a motor vehicle accident, right? And statistically, over 100,000 people die each year due to medical mistakes. And part of the problem is the lack of consistent, centralized information, okay? The more information they know about you when taking care of you medically, the better off you're going to be. And before I forget, you're going to tell a loved one, family and friends, oh, I keep all of my medical information, the most important information, on my phone or in my notepad on my desk, so that they know where that is in case you're in a, you're unconscious and you're not able to let people know exactly where your information is stored. Again, I didn't do the research. I'm sure there are apps out there, blah, 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 that do something similar, but you don't need to buy apps or anything. You just do it on your notepad. Everyone has a notepad. It's free. I don't believe in spending money unless you absolutely have to. Okay, so now we're going to do that starting today, and we'll just put in a couple bits of information and take a couple photos and embed them in the notepad, and you'll see how easy it is to do. Now, this is the other information that I suggest, but you can make a decision as to what you think is important about your health. Date of birth, pretty benign. Put your date of birth so they know how old you are. Put your gender. That's important. as well. Then the first thing, as a pharmacist, I'm always thinking about drug allergies, okay? So I will caution you here. You really want to only list true drug allergies. And there's a difference between not tolerating a drug because of side effects and a true drug allergy. And why this is important is if you're unsure, ask your pharmacist about it. And would this be a drug allergy or not? If you're unsure, really don't list it, all right? And the reason is it could prevent you from receiving some medicines you really do need. So you want an accurate history, not only of your medical history, but you want an accurate history of any known drug allergies. Now, if you don't have any drug allergies, like most people, you say no known drug allergies, and you put that in there on, point number 3 or point number 4, right? If you do, like say for example, penicillin, if you know exactly what that allergy was, like rash, put penicillin-rash. Keep it simple, all right? Don't have to put a lot of words behind it, because if it's important, they'll ask you about it, all right? Again, I have seen in medical records people list drug allergies that are not true allergies. There are side effects, and there's a difference, okay? Now, if you want to have something like, I don't do really well with medications that have opioids in them, and there's many medications. You can put that in there under side effects or adverse effects of medications. And that could be point number 4 or point number 5. Again, it's important to think about, again, it's accurate. And when in doubt, ask your pharmacist. Get to know your pharmacist. There's pharmacists on every corner in your neighborhood. They are the drug medication experts. They study drugs for 6 to 10 years. They know what they're doing. They know what they're talking about. They're very busy because they're dealing with a lot of problems at the same time. And now they're dealing with vaccinations and COVID-19 testing. But they will make time for you, and they will answer your questions free of charge. Where else can you go for expertise, information free of charge? Go to your pharmacy. Okay, so the next thing you're going to list is your current medications. And you're not only going to include prescription medications here, you're going to include over-the-counter medications as well as any dietary supplements you might take. Like if you take tryptophan or if you take melatonin and stuff like that. And all you really need to do is list and the date. Now for the vitamins and dietary supplements, just list them out, all right, if you're currently taking them, okay? For your medications, whether they're prescription or over-the-counter medications, if you can list the date you started it, the drug, the milligrams or grams of how much you take, and how often you take it, that would be great. So if you're on an antihypertensive, say, I'm trying to think of a common antihypertensive, something like losartan. Losartan, so many milligrams per day. You can even say for blood pressure. And then list the next medication. Aspirin, 80 milligrams a day to prevent heart disease, all right? And so forth. So list your current medications, the name, brand name or generic or both, but don't, again, it's easier to use the brand. So you can always say generic Lipitor. And so, it's easier to just use the brand name, but again, unless told otherwise, you always want the generic because generic is least expensive, unless if the brand happens to be on sale and less than the generic drug. But again, ask your pharmacist when in doubt or ask your prescriber. There are a couple exceptions to that rule, but again, generic drugs are FDA approved to be therapeutically equivalent to that of the brand name. So use your generic, but you can use the brand name and say, I'm taking generic Lipitor. Okay, because I know that these generic names are very complicated. Again, the date that you started taking it, milligrams per day, how often you take it per day. That's the list of your current medications. Include over-the-counter medications if you're regularly taking an antihistamine for allergy relief, like Zyrtec. I take generic Zyrtec, 10 milligrams every day for allergies, period, done. Keep it simple, but keep it accurate. Okay, if you're unsure, again, ask your pharmacist. Now, you can also have on the next step, your past medical history. You know, you are a type 1 diabetic diagnosed in this year. You might not know the exact date, okay? So your past medical history, and then your current medical history. Now, the current medical history is extremely important. You know, I suffer from hypertension. I was diagnosed. It's controlled, so forth. Don't necessarily have to include your blood pressures, but there are other apps that can be used to monitor your blood pressure. So I would suggest it's easier to use other apps. But if your last blood pressure was normal, you could say last blood pressure on such and such date, normal. Or 120/81, you know, something like that. Keep it simple, but keep it accurate. And you don't have to list every single thing that has happened to you since the day you were born. List the important therapeutic healthcare milestones in your life. So the next point here would be past surgical history. You know, major surgeries that you would want someone to know about, like you had a cardiac stent placed in 2018. Stuff like that. You had a hip replacement in this particular date. Now, if you want to go to the level of detail where that occurred, what hospital, what doctor, certainly you can do that. But the bigger thing is for the people that are taking care of you and for yourself to be able to convey to them and remind yourself of these past medical events that you had. So again, past medical history, past major surgical history, okay? And with that, like for example, I've had skin cancer. It was diagnosed in 2010, squamous cell carcinoma, 2010. So skin cancer on the face, 2010, squamous cell carcinoma. Again, I'm in the medical profession, so I sort of know the jargon. But again, you put as much information as you can recall or that you know about accurately and keep it simple to the point. Because the medical professionals that are taking care of you can ask you additional questions. All right. Now, where a healthcare journal becomes extremely important is chronic conditions. And I'm going to back up one step here. We're going to place our vaccination history. As you get older, you're going to get more and more vaccinations. You know, vaccinations now for COVID-19, the date of your first vaccine dose, the date of your second dose, and I would encourage you to put which vaccine you received because we don't mix vaccines. Okay, there's a study that's ongoing right now that's looking at combining the Pfizer vaccine with the AstraZeneca vaccine, but that study is just starting, so we don't mix vaccines. So if you get the first shot is Moderna, the second shot is Moderna. First shot is Pfizer, second shot is Pfizer. Don't mix the vaccines. And you don't want to take other types of vaccines around the time that you're taking the COVID-19 vaccine. You want at least 2 weeks apart from each other, and I would also ask the healthcare professional and say, hey, I just had a shingle vaccine 4 weeks ago. Is it okay to get the COVID-19 vaccine? Okay, so again, that's really, really important. So this is important. Vaccination history, especially now that we're in a pandemic. The date of the first dose, the second dose, and which vaccine did you get? Moderna versus Pfizer versus soon to be Johnson & Johnson. And remember, ask about other types of vaccines. As you get older, you're required to get a shingle vaccine. You want to get that because shingles is a terrible, horrific ordeal to go through. A pneumococcal vaccine as you get older. When did you get it? What was the year or the date? And possibly even the location. Simple to do, right? And especially think of this as a living document that you will update as needed when you'd like to do that, you know? And again, put as much detail as you feel comfortable in knowing that you know for sure. Write it down in your healthcare journal on your phone, your notepad, or on a hard copy. And let your friends and families know where that healthcare journal is. All right? This is really important now for chronic conditions, whether you're a child or an adult. If you have been diagnosed with a chronic illness like an autoimmune disorder or like cancer or cardiac disease like cardiomyopathy or congestive heart failure, writing down the date of diagnosis, writing down the lab values, and if you don't know those lab values, I had blood work done on this date. Now, what's also great about the notepad feature is not only can you take a snapshot of those lab results, you can also scan them into a document. So there's another icon there. There's a choice of take a photo or scan a document. So if you have those lab values right in front of you, say, can I take a picture of this or can I scan this into my healthcare journal? Because there's a lot of redundancies of tests, especially if you go to different doctors, if you go to different laboratory facilities, or if you go to different hospitals or different pharmacies. There's redundancies and there's an overlap of information that may or may not be centralized. And your healthcare journal is your responsibility to make sure that the information is listed out there and accurate for you. So under chronic conditions, I had colorectal cancer. It was diagnosed here. I had lab work done on this date, okay? I may take a picture of that laboratory work, okay? I had imaging scans of either a CT, MRI, a PET scan done on this date. Those are very important because those are very expensive and you don't want to reduplicate. Do you ever change dentists? Because I've moved a lot in my life. So I had a dentist in San Francisco, a dentist in Boston, right? And then all of a sudden they want to do full x-rays over you when you just had them done last year. You don't necessarily need to have your mouth fully x-rayed every year. I mean, I think it's recommended every 3 to 5 years or 5 years. Anyhow, listing those scans, even if you don't list what the results were, you could list it as normal, or no signs of disease, or small tumor located. Again, what you know to be accurate, list what you can, but even just recording the fact that you had a CT on this date will let the other doctors know, oh, well, let's just get those scans. You know, we're not going to repeat it because there's no need to repeat it because it was already done. Very important if you're switching doctors and hospitals and so forth, or seeking second referrals. All right. Then you're also going to list, and this is really important for chronic illnesses, your treatments. Okay. I started chemotherapy on this date. It was CHOP Rituxan. That's it. You just need to know the name of the regimen that they need. You don't necessarily know all the dosages, all the day numbers. It gets very complicated. Or I started Inbrel for this reason on this date. That's all. If you want to include the dose, include the dose. All right? But those treatments for your chronic illness will be very helpful. Again, to refresh your memory when you're going to see a new doctor, Or, again, to remind your doctor, oh, well, we just had that test done last week and you must have it in your computer. This actually just happened to me this past week. I had to remind the doctor I had 3 different levels of this particular lab done, 2 around this time and one just 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago. Oh, and say, oh, yeah, let me look that up. So good. The medical journal thing works. I'm a big proponent of it, and I'm a big proponent for you to have it on your iPhone and your iPad. A couple last things. Any doctor visits, you could have a separate item listing those doctor visits and the reason for the visit, physical exam, checking blood pressure, so forth. Again, you use your best judgment. It's your journal. Just make sure it's accurate and keep it simple. And it's a living document, so keep it updated. Like you're on a plane, or you're on a bus, or you're in a car ride. Update your journal right on your phone. You also could highlight those things that are of extreme importance to your medical history, either, by changing the color of the text or using the highlight text function on your phone. Again, just to make it stand out or bold it to say, I was diagnosed with skin cancer on this particular date by this doctor, and I had the Mohs procedure done and no recurrence or stuff like that. Again, I hope you found this helpful. I think that more people need to keep a healthcare journal. More people need to take charge of their healthcare for yourself, for your loved ones, for your friends and family. And with that, this is PHARMATVE Live. I'm Dr. James Partyka, and until I see you next time, stay safe and stay healthy, as it's easier to prevent disease than to treat disease. See you next time.